2024, and we're kicking off the first episode of the year with Jodi Amendola, CEO and founder of Amendola Communications, discussing her list of the top PR and marketing trends we'll see this year. I'm your host, Carol Flagg. Take a listen. Well, Jodi, first of all, Happy New Year 2024, and welcome back to What's My Tagline? You were a guest on the show a couple years ago, and I'm so excited to have you back to be talking about your predictions in the PR and marketing side of things for 2024. How are you?
I'm great, Carol. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to you. I always love talking to you. I think this is actually my third, maybe fourth time on the show.
I think it's your fourth time.
Okay, yeah. So I'm no stranger to the show, and I feel very lucky that I got to spend some time with you this year at Chime, and my team got to see you in person last week. So I'm, great to be here, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh yeah, always a pleasure. Just connecting and chatting with you. All right, so of course, as a semi-regular guest on the show, that the first question of all my guests is, if you had to describe yourself as a tagline, what would it be?
Yes. So I think the last time I was on your show, if I'm not mistaken, I described myself as the connector, because at the heart of who I am a networker. I have built my business, which, by the way, Carol, is in its 20th year. We had our 20th anniversary this year. Yeah. On networking. I mean, I have met people in the strangest places, from airplanes, elevators, trade shows, you name it. But that connection that I make with people is more than just closing business, because, well, I'll get into that in a second, but that connection that I make with folks is really helping people. I've helped former clients. I help clients with their strategic investments, with advice, counsel, partnerships, jobs, you name it. So I got a note on LinkedIn from one of my former clients that said her bright spot was having me help her in 2023 trying to find a job. I got a note yesterday from a former client saying, hey, I have this phenomenal interview. I really want to go in with a couple of media opportunities. Can you help me get them? And I made that happen. But I want to take it one step further with my tagline for this show and say that my team calls me the closer. You laugh, but it's especially important.
I know they call you that.
They do. It was especially important during COVID years, which were so difficult and tumultuous. But I actually will tell you that last year was probably one of the worst years and the craziest, strangest years that I've ever had in 30 years in health IT. So, it's the closer that, again, like, not only bringing in business, because they say that a sale without a heart is just a transaction. And that's not me, because, as I said, I'm a connector. But I also value all of the repeat business that we have and the clients that we have. And I help them to close their deals, to close on investments, to help them take advantage of timely PR and media opportunities, give them ideas and strategies and insights to help them advance their business. So today, my schedule after this podcast is I have 3 calls with clients. So that's my tagline.
The closer. I love that. Because, I've haven't known you for 20 years, but I've known you for many years, and your entire team. And I know they call you the closer. And again, for a lot of different, not just, closing a particular, contract related PR, but really closing the loop, right? It's,
yes,
it's a bigger circle of closing that we're talking about here.
I love that. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, a big loop, a big circle. All right. So, Ms. Closer. So we're going to talk about 2024. I recently read some predictions that you put out there and grabbed the info from LinkedIn. And I was intrigued by what you had to say, what you see coming down the pike in the PR and marketing arena this year. Yeah. So I'd love to start with that.
Sure. Just to level set, like I said, last year was a pretty tumultuous year.
Yeah.
Health systems just, struggled financially as they were recovering from the pandemic and rising labor costs and workforce shortages. And while there have been some signs of financial stabilization in 2023, there were also a lot of consolidations, both vertically with hospitals and insurers buying practices, and then horizontally with systems merging like Kaiser and Geisinger. And that's, trickled down to our clients who are the healthcare IT vendors for the most part. Marketing dollars were tight. Investment in HIT and other technology was limited. And I do think that we will see more of that. With that said, there were some glimmers of hope. Some of our clients, their marketing budgets really went up. Others went down. So it was kind of, like they say, like Seinfeld, everything kind of evens out. So I saw a little bit of both. And I was honestly, Carol, Q4 was so strong for us with so much activity. I was working 12-hour days. I literally couldn't keep up. Things have simmered down this month. And maybe that's, just the start of the new year. Folks are gearing up for trade show season, right? We typically have a good 20, 22, 25 clients at HIMSS, Health, and Vive. And so now we're working on Vive and HIMSS for clients. So I'm not sure how 2024 is going to shake out, but I can tell you that folks are still cautious.
Yeah, tentative. Yeah.
Yeah. They're just, budgets are still constrained a bit. And so we have to pivot our PR and marketing programs because the landscape has changed a lot. For example, in PR, years ago, you used to have that spray and pray approach. That doesn't work anymore. And, just having great relationships with the media, that doesn't work anymore either.
Right.
You really have to have great storytelling. That's at the heart of anything you do in PR and marketing. And so infusing the narrative with great storytelling, knowing your audience and how to engage them, focusing on their pain points and the topics that resonate for them, providing, key insights. That's really important. And I always tell my clients, you have to hit folks through multiple touch points. It's not just about a PR program or a LinkedIn program or attending trade shows or your lead gen and digital marketing activities. Everything has to work simultaneously together.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying as far as sort of, the tentativeness as 2024 has started with companies looking to spend marketing dollars, but being very judicious on what they're picking. And this is a great segue into the first thing we want to talk about, I'd like to talk about, which is conferences as we head into Vive and HIMSS, obviously two of the largest, if not the largest, health IT conferences in our industry. And you talk about, from a prediction standpoint, this idea of really maximizing these conferences, booths, networking, and even virtual events, right? So from that perspective, what more can clients and exhibitors do to get the most out of the dollars that they're spending on these events?
Yes. So I always tell my clients, no matter what event you're attending, whether you're attending it because you're an exhibitor or you're attending it just to network, make sure that at least 1 to 2 months in advance, you reach out to folks and set up your calendar. When I go into a trade show, I am book solid every half hour on the half hour. I don't even get potty breaks. But that's key to really maximizing, know where the folks you want to meet are, their booths are, so that you can go have a look-see, know the events you want to go to at night. Because honestly, I don't know why this happens, but literally every event you want to attend is going to be at the same time from 6 to 7 on the same night. That's just how it works. So try to make sure that you can maybe hit each one that you want for a half hour versus, only going to 1 or 2. But plan that all out in advance. That's number one. Number two, video is trade shows are a great time to capture some videos at events, whether it's of you, whether it's of your clients, but you can leverage them for testimonials or for vlogs of executives. There are other things you can do at events besides spending a lot of money on booths. So you can have a breakfast or a dinner that you pre-arrange with your top tier prospects or top tier clients. It's a great way to say thank you. It's a great way to meet in person, to network. So those are the big things I think that I tell my clients.
Yeah.
And also to know that, events are a great way to generate content. So in addition to big events like we talk about, there are also user group events. So we have one coming up for one of our clients, and we have one of our team members that will go on site to the event and report on the event. And that can generate, 6 months worth of content, meeting with execs in addition to the actual presenters at the event.
Yeah. Creating that long tail content for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
You mentioned video, and so I'd like to actually talk about that as well as one of your predictions. So obviously, video and YouTube is it's never been probably as big as it is right now. This increased focus on video why it made your list. Is this a reflection of TikTok and social media, or is it just because people just want video? I mean, it is easy to digest. It's easier to watch on a phone and all of that. Yeah.
I honestly think it's a combination of both. So everybody these days is on social media and watching, short little snippets of video. So it's what we've become accustomed to. I mean, gosh, I don't even open a recipe book anymore, right? If I want to make something, I just go and look online and quickly get a video. So that's kind of the way our world works now. And we're all so busy. We live in this digital world, and we are always on call and always available and accessible. And so to be able to just see a quick, short 30 to second video, you can convey huge amounts of information in a very short amount of time. What I also like about video is you can show your personality, you can be authentic, or you can be educational. So it's great for testimonials, but it's great for product overviews. You can animate them, but you can connect with your brand on an emotional level. And then, like I tell everybody, repurpose, right? So you can leverage your video on social, you can use it for lead gen. And the other thing I love about video, Carol, is that it improves SEO. Right. Better search rankings. So it's definitely grown in popularity for both of the reasons that you identified. But I just think that people just don't have the patience these days in general to read a 10-page white paper. It doesn't mean that we still don't do them. We're just finishing up one, and I have a call on Monday to talk about starting another one. But for the most part, people want short snippets of content. They want the infographics, the visual, short, easy. Even an ebook is easier to digest. You could break it into short chapters.
Right. I think it's interesting, this point that, with video sort of fits in with really culturally, how we operate in a society. A lot of that has to do with the smartphone, right?
Absolutely.
But in social media, this idea of like, if I can get an understanding or a glimpse into who you are quickly, then that's the path of least resistance for me, which leads into that your prediction about shorter digestible content. I'm sure you're not just talking about video, but
correct.
Talk about that prediction. What that means. How much shorter should it get? And are we just talking about video?
Right. No, I mean, I think even blog posts, like I said, ebooks, infographics, I think are huge because you can show data, you can just show things by the numbers, and it's just a quick snapshot, which people like to see. I'm also encouraging folks to do issue briefs, which are like 2-page authoritative papers versus a 6 to 8 to 10-page white paper. So I think there's just lots of alternative types of content. Even the thought leader articles that we write these days are typically 750 words, 1,000, 1,200 tops, where, years ago it started at 1,500 and went up from there.
That was sort of the Google barometer, was 1,500 words.
Yeah, I think people just have less patience, less tolerance, and less time.
Yeah. Harder to, again, I always say, look to your smartphone. Are you going to read a 15 to 2,000 word article on your on your iPhone.
Exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So speaking about content, I'd like to
Mhm.
move on to your AI is here to stay, but regs are coming
Yeah.
hopefully soon. Let's talk about AI, and I don't think we can have a conversation about AI and generative AI. I think is what we're talking about here, without talking about the Chat GPT side of this and that impact on content.
So let me just say, I mean, AI in healthcare is amazing, right? I mean, our clients have moved the dial with diagnostics. Hopefully in 2024, we're moving more to predictive health and personalized medicine. I read a stat just last week that radiologist is the strongest field for AI applications. So, I mean, I think it's amazing. And AI has had an enormous impact on HIT marketing and marketing in general. We, as an agency, use it as a tool for research, for ideation, for facilitating the writing thought process, but it's not a substitute for human creativity. And there are pitfalls and downfalls that you need to be aware of. And I do think that regs will really help because, you know, who wants to be accused of plagiarism?
Right.
Right? I mean, that's, yeah. And you know, AI, while it has great information, it's not always accurate, and that could get you in trouble. And it may not always be up to the latest and greatest, having the right source material. So I've often also read that it hallucinates, it makes mistakes and errors. And so, you know, you don't want to be associated with that. And with the type of content that we're writing about, healthcare IT, you really have to understand that content. And so there's nothing that could really take the place of a human writer who can not only digest the information, but infuse that creativity that our clients are looking for.
Yeah. You talk about hallucinating. All I can think about is HAL 2000 and 2001 Space Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
There are probably people listening in who are like, oh my God, that movie's so old. But
Right. Well, I also think, you know, yes, it can write an article, but it would also be kind of more ho hum. So we want that writing with that socks a punch.
yeah.
So yeah. So,
Well, we get, we obviously get editorial submissions, and
sure.
we get the, and our team can tell immediately
Mm-hmm.
that it has mostly been written by generative AI. It just it is a lack of personality that comes through that's really
Exactly.
obvious.
Exactly. Like I was going to say, we often use analogies. We use the end user. So like I said, you know, at the beginning, how important storytelling is. You're not going to be able to tell the story using generative AI. You're not going to have that unique personalization and insights, which is what our audiences crave.
Yeah, and yes, gets back to your previous tagline as a connector. I mean, I think making connections, and I think that connection includes content, whether it's video or podcasts or radio that we do or articles. You still have to connect with the audience that's consuming it. And if the AI if it's too heavy or prevalent in that content, you're going to have a tough time doing that.
Absolutely. And honestly, one of the best ways to leverage content and build your brand and thought leadership and personality is through LinkedIn. And that was one of my predictions. And I think one of the most valuable tools that we have today in marketing and marketing healthcare and healthcare technology, because you can really build your brand on LinkedIn and be posting on a regular basis and provide that relevant educational information, but also unique storytelling that helps drive engagement and build your execs as thought leaders and build your company's personality. So I personally I'm a big LinkedIn fan, and we've seen a huge shift in the last couple of years of clients who, whenever I barely ever have a client just sign on for a PR program. It's almost always in conjunction with a content program that leverages LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was on your list too, bet on LinkedIn. And I think it's really interesting with LinkedIn, especially with the changes that have occurred over at X, which of course formerly known as Twitter, that, more and more companies are spending less time. These are the companies that I know, and us included, less time doing organic posts on X. Because the value is just no longer there with the changes that they've made, and spending more time doing organic posting on LinkedIn.
1000%. And I think on LinkedIn, it's quality over quantity. It's following best practices. It's not only talking about your own company's initiatives. We like to follow the 80-20 rule, where it's 80% about thought leadership and 20% about your conferences, your initiatives, your awards, and things like that. I love it because you can show appreciation to people who influenced your journey. You could share customer testimonials. You could give career advice, lessons learned. You could do a poll. You could ask questions. You could share a surprising fact. You could present a challenge. So you can spark an industry conversation. And I think a lot of it is drawing people in with a great graphic. So it's especially helpful when you're trying to build momentum before a trade show, like we talked about before. Now leading up to Vive and HIMSS would be super important to have that steady cadence of LinkedIn activity. And then even at the show, you could do posts from the show and then post after the show again on lessons learned.
Right. Interesting too. One of your other topics and trends is key in on customer champions, and this is a good segue as well, because LinkedIn is actually a great environment to do that. There are other ways as well, but certainly LinkedIn could be a starting point or a continual process for keying in on those customers who are your real champions.
Absolutely. There's nothing that tells a story better than the actual end user, right? I mean, hospitals want to hear what other hospitals have to say. Doctors want to hear what other doctors say. Payers want to see what other payers are doing. They don't care about what the vendor says about their own specific product or services.
Right.
The end user can show, how did this technology solve my pain point? How do we improve efficiencies, decrease costs, all of the things that matter to clients.
Right. So the last item on this list, and then we're gonna chat a little bit more because I'm sure there are others, but this is interesting. Uptick in rebranding is here to stay. We did see a lot of rebranding over the last few years. It started with COVID and it never really stopped. 100%. But you see it as a continuation.
I do. We had a lot of messaging and rebranding this past year. We had everything from name changes. We had one client who had been impacted by industry legislation, and so needed a complete new messaging and branding lift. We also had clients who had layoffs and needed some communications messaging to avoid being in the media, which is kind of the opposite of what we typically do.
That's true. That's
right?
True.
We had one client in value-based care who had very complicated multiple business lines and wanted a totally new look and feel, as well as new messaging to delineate what they do and how they do it. And on top of, after doing the messaging, then we also develop the pieces that leverage the new messaging that they can then use for their constituents. And we're getting ready now to launch a rebrand of a client in February that acquired another company, and now the two entities have merged, and how that will transcend into 2024 and impact their clients and their offerings. So I definitely think that we will see more of that in 2024.
Yeah, totally agree. So Jodi, this time always goes by so fast with you, but as we wind down our conversation, I'd like you to look into your 2024 crystal ball one more time and pull out one last nugget, one last trend that wasn't on this list that you shared with me for 2024.
Sure. I think, I continually, and not just because we are a full service agency, but PR has always been our bread and butter. But PR gives you the biggest bang for the buck, and it helps to build credibility and thought leadership. So I think PR will become even more important for brands that are trying to, navigate in a very crowded, noisy marketplace and a tumultuous year. So having that consistent, ongoing share of voice to rise above the noise and stay on brand, I think will be continually important. And I think that clients who have those end users that we talked about that they can leverage will be a big competitive differentiator, and clients that also have any industry, any unique data that they can share will also help them differentiate themselves and succeed.
Yeah, that's great. Jodi, as always, such a pleasure talking with you. And I look forward to the next time that I have you on the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Carol. Love talking to you, and look forward to hopefully seeing you soon.
You got it. Thanks. You can learn more about Jodi Amendola at acmarketingpr.com. Be sure to connect and follow her on LinkedIn. You can learn more about this show on the program page on healthcarenowradio.com. And please connect and engage with me on LinkedIn. Until next time, I want to know, what's your tagline?